Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown,
the unofficial sumo podcast
for official sumo fans.
Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is going to be a special bonus episode where each of the GSB guys interviews another one. Just an episode to get everybody to understand the GSB guys a little bit more, get to know us a little bit better. There will be a little bit of sumo talk, but most of it will be focused on other things. So if you're not into that, no need to listen to it, but it's going to be a fun listen to whether or not you're into sumo. So enjoy.
Welcome back. This is Jake, and I am interviewing Mack, the world record holder for GSB Prediction Series losses.
I am proud of this record.
Yeah, I would be too. It's too higher than anyone else, isn't it?
And nobody else has this record.
That's
why
a good
I'm
point.
amazing at it.
And we'll never let you forget it.
No, and I don't expect that.
Because that's what kind of friends we are.
Indeed.
We go way back. Mack, how did our group really form?
Well, I had the unfortunate circumstance of being in class with you in our aerospace classes, but it was actually Molly who introduced us, if you remember.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember, but I'm interviewing you. I'm trying to get you to talk.
Fine. We were in class together, and I didn't really know you guys all that well, but another classmate who I had the opportunity to work with said, hey, why don't you come hang out with us? And I went and met you guys over at the house over in one of the campus buildings.
Yeah, and from there it was Dungeons and Dragons and late nights with homework and
lots of soda
history.
and Twizzlers and candy and a lot of games.
Certainly not anything more illicit than that. Anyways, though, we met in college and we had a lot of fun there. And I'm sure this will be a theme in our interviews here. But Dungeons and Dragons was really the main thing that we got together to do in college.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me about your introduction to Dungeons and Dragons and some of your favorite stories?
My introduction to Dungeons and Dragons was kind of offhanded. I had read about it and I'd seen a couple guys playing it, but didn't really know how to get into it. And again, one of our fellow classmates said, hey, why don't you go give this a try? And then you guys extended the offer and said, next time we play, do you want to come? I said, sure. So then we went down to the basement of, I think it was one of the houses you guys were sharing, and down in the deepest, darkest dungeon, I created my first character.
That house really did have a dungeon of a basement, didn't it? It was a very stereotypical college basement.
It was, with the haphazard couch, and, oh, hey, wait, you still have that haphazard couch. Wow. It was a lot of fun down there.
I've upgraded slightly since then.
But no, created my first class, which was a sniper in a cyberpunk D&D session with our main villain as Frau Unterdunkel DXD.
Yes, the evil dastardly program who is trying to take over the moon.
Indeed.
Yeah. No, that was a good one. But yeah, like we studied together, and I believe you also met another special someone while you were studying engineering.
I did. I met Ryan. So in
exactly
one of those,
who I was talking about.
Indeed. In one of those D&D sessions, Ryan was actually there, and I met his future wife there, and I gave her wheat thins. It was the first time meeting
You know,
her.
I was trying to give you a great
thing.
opportunity to introduce the wife, but
you want me to talk about her?
If the story of giving Ryan's wife wheat thins is more what you want to talk about, you go right ahead.
Well, okay, fine. I can do that. No,
sarcasm,
anyway.
Please don't.
Don't know.
I think we've kind of reached the end of the details anyways.
That's correct. Anyway, no, I had the very wonderful opportunity to meet my future wife there. We met in the aerospace project that we were on and been together for about 5 years now. It's been amazing.
Yeah, there's 5 years and it's been great most of the time since then, but why don't you tell us a little bit about the start of that relationship?
Well,
as much as you're willing to share, because I know that she'll end up listening to this if she knows this story's on it.
Yes, that's true. So we met on one of the projects, and then I left to go to work, and I ran into her randomly one day when I was back on campus doing something, and then we decided, okay, let's go get some tea and coffee, and that was our first date. It was really nice. I passed her on my way to the coffee shop and waved to her from my truck as I was passing by her. Yeah,
that's a good start.
Mr. Macho, looking good. And met her outside of the tea shop. We sat outside. It was a nice day. I treated the whole thing as a job interview, in her words, where I was braggadocious about my accomplishments, apparently. I didn't think I was that bad, but apparently I was. But then she spilled tea all over the table. So it covered everything, our whole lunch, all of our snacks, doused in tea. And I am not a tea drinker. So instead of sipping the tea, I gulped it and ended up scalding my tongue. So I had ice rolling around my mouth for the second half of our date, and it went about as bad as you are pretty much figuring out right now. But afterward, we said, "Do you want to try that again?" So we agreed to a second date.
I think it's a very it's a fun story that that this couple that is now getting married and spending the rest of their lives together started off with just a terrible first date. It was just bad.
I would say the first few were pretty bad.
And I think it's a fun story because it really illustrates the relationship and the personalities. Because one, you treated it like a job interview.
Oh yes, I did.
And two, she was too polite to say no to a second date.
Mm-hmm. I got her though.
But yeah, we got a wedding coming up this summer. What kind of stuff are you guys planning for that?
We are going to be up in Wisconsin. We're going to be enjoying all the lush, green, godforsaken plains of Wisconsin. Sorry to Wisconsin fans out there. I am not a Packer fan. Anyway, that has kind of soured the entire state for me. I am so sorry. But
I completely understand. As a fellow Vikings fan, it's the worst state to be in.
Jake,
but you got to do it. You got to do it. It's for family.
Got to grit my teeth.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ryan. Right you are, Ryan.
Ryan is listening from the background. That's right.
But we will be up in New Glarus. It's going to be a wonderful time, we hope. Lots of green, lots of really good spotted cow, at least we're hoping, and should be a heck of a good time.
Spotted cow, the local beer.
Indeed, from the brewery, and it's going to be predominantly Swiss, and I am not a drop Swiss, so this will be interesting for me.
Well, you now have half of a Swiss family, so...
Yodeling, polka, and cowbells. Oh, my.
I really hope we get some good pictures and maybe even some videos for the podcast Twitter feed here.
Oh, please no.
Well, yeah, that's not for you to decide.
I know.
But anyways, so now that we've covered how Mack met the group and how Mack met somebody else who's, I guess, important, outside the podcast, whatever.
Yeah,
why don't we get to know Mack?
Oh, no, you don't
what makes Mack Mack? What are the nerdiest things about you that have led you to this horrible point in your life where you're being interviewed for hundreds of people talking about the silliest things that you have done? So, you are an unabashed geek for sure. What are your particular areas of geekdom that you specialize in?
I would have to say Star Wars and Star Trek are two of my primary
both
geekdoms.
You say?
Both? Yes, indeed, both. I started off as a purist from Star Wars. I wouldn't touch anything with Star Trek, and then I found Voyager on TV one day, and I was just ensnared by how amazing that adventure was, which caused me to go back and look at Deep Space Nine, which also an excellent series. And after that, I thought, you know what? I better start from the beginning and see if I like this, and I did.
So you've consumed all canon Star Trek and Star Wars, then, I take it?
Except for the most recent Star Trek, yes.
Yeah, the one that's behind a paywall. Yeah, we don't speak of that one.
No.
Anyways, kind of good. Flerick says it's actually kind of good, but I'll believe him when I don't have to pay for it. Anyways, you also you haven't always been a gamer, but that has changed recently.
Indeed, it has.
What are your primary games of choice?
My two games of choice right now are Monster Hunter World and God of War 4. Anything with Viking and Norse mythology, I'll go for that.
Or giant monsters.
Or giant monsters.
Gigantic swords.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Yeah, no, that Monster Hunter World, Mack, Ryan, Jake, all three of us, we get together and we hunt space unicorns. We have a great time.
Yes, we do. With the amazing lightning attack that prevents all of us from getting really close.
We can all talk about how the Kieran is the worst thing ever devised by man.
I would agree with that.
But I suppose we might as well move on. So some of your other interests, I know you are you're big on fitness. You like doing races and mud runs and obstacle courses and things like that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of those that you've done?
Well, see, I enjoy doing them. I like doing the 10Ks. I like doing the obstacle course races, like a Gladiator Assault. Would like to do a Tough Mudder eventually. I think we're going to do Conquer the Gauntlet here this coming month. But as much as I love these races, they don't love me.
They do not. That was my
No.
next topic, is injuries.
Indeed, yes.
So tell us about some of your big ones.
Well, as much as I like to stay fit and work out and give everything I've got in any of my competitions, unfortunately, my body isn't always able to keep up with that. I have dislocated my left shoulder, I have dislocated my right patella, and I have separated my left shoulder, all from physical exertion.
Wow. Yeah, good time. Any of those particularly good stories of how they happened, or were they just accumulation injuries?
Let's see. The shoulder was a basketball injury. I went end over end and landed on it. The knee was actually a game of racquetball. I twisted too quickly. My knee went right, my body went left, and snap. But the big takeaway from that one was I looked down and saw my knee out of place and said, I'm not going back to the hospital, and put my knee back in place.
With force.
Oh, with force, indeed, with my fist.
with percussive pressure.
There was another loud snap, and my knee went back in.
And that's kind of what did the real damage, wasn't it?
I soon found out.
At least some of it, yeah.
I was able to make it home that night. I thought, I'll be fine. I'll walk this off. And I woke up the next day and couldn't move my leg.
You weren't doing walking of any kind, much less off.
I had sheared off a sizable piece of cartilage in my knee and had to get it removed.
Yeah, well, we know what not to do when our patellas are misplaced now.
Yes,
That's
I do.
probably a lesson most people will hopefully never have to learn.
No.
But no, I remember that was the one right before you and I started hanging out. I remember when we first met, you were on crutches.
Yep. I came into the computer lab on crutches.
Yeah. Oh man. So, but yeah, ever since then we've been pretty tight knit. Like our whole group, the four of us, our wives, and we've gone on some trips together.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of trips have you enjoyed with the group, and what do we have planned for the future?
Well, my top two trips have been the Boundary Waters up in Minnesota and heading down to New Orleans. Both of those were a lot of fun for different reasons. Love the Boundary Waters because we were outside experiencing nature, had a few mishaps, but that all just added up to the whole experience. Completely loved it, would go back again. With New Orleans, that was a different adventure. And by that, I mean the open container laws were amazing. And to have the beignets and Café du Mont and seeing all the different sites of New Orleans, plus the Commander's Palace, it was just a different experience altogether. Would happily go back and do it again.
Yeah, we have a good time. But we have another big one coming up. What's that?
Well, you guys are coming to Wisconsin for the wedding, right?
Well, I guess that counts. Whatever.
No, but next year we are planning the Japan trip. And that is going to be 2 weeks of fun and adventure. Hopefully we can catch a basho while we're there. And if not, just see all the sights of Japan.
Yeah, we're hoping to go during the summer basho next July. But yeah, anyways, speaking of sumo, let's talk about why Mack likes sumo. What specifically? What are your favorite things, and why do those things appeal to you?
I really like the traditions of sumo. I like all the backgrounds and the histories from the creation of the doyo to the training of the rikishi and all of the importance and symbolism involved with the sport. I think that is just profound because in a lot of our modern sports, we don't have that. You look at football, you look at baseball, they have their own traditions, but you can find their beginning point. I mean, you can see right where they started. With Japan and sumo, it's just been a part of their culture. It's been ingrained in their culture for so long that it's almost unrecognizable. And that's what I love about it. It's just the history, the deep-rooted history that sumo has.
Right. Yeah. And what about the modern times? So that history has all led to this current moment, this current atmosphere we have in sumo. What specific wrestlers and types of matches do you like that you see these days?
I enjoy any kind of pushing thrusting match, since I think that is one of the original styles. Any kind of yorikiri bout or any kind of, like I said, pushing and thrusting, I think that is a pure way of sumo. But I do also love some awesome belt grabs and throws. Those just look amazing when you can actually see this guy pick another one up and hurl them outside the doyo.
Yeah. There's some awesome displays. But what do you think it is about you that makes sumo so appealing to you? I think for all of us, we've been following sumo for maybe 2 years. We've been doing a podcast for almost 1. But what do you think about your personality? What do you think about your own interest has led you to sumo and has led you to put so much time into it that we do just to watch, just to podcast about it?
I love the element of chance that each basho brings. You never quite know who's going to perform. The guys you think might do well might all of a sudden suck. And then the guys that you completely discounted just do amazing. Like we've seen it in just these past bashos where Goedo, we thought he was going to do well, or we joke about him on the podcast, but he is still an Ozeki. You expect him to do well, and when he doesn't do well, it's very disappointing. But then you get guys like Oyama, who you would look at him and go, I'm not so sure about this guy, but then he can do well.
Sure doesn't look like an athlete.
No.
Yeah.
Same with Tochinoshin. We pull for him. We want him to win. All the guys that we look at, we really try and pull for them. Come on, you can do this.
Sure.
That's what I love, the excitement. I love the intensity that each match can bring, but always just that element of chance. Like, is it going to be today? Is he going to do it? That's what keeps me coming back.
That novelty that it could be almost anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I like that a lot. It's a sport that's brought the four of us here and given us a fun new hobby. So real quick, let's go through a lightning round of some of the more cliche things that couldn't really get through an interview without. So we're going to do a quick list of favorites. First off, favorite movie and a brief description why.
Star Wars A New Hope, 1977, unedited version, Han Solo shot first.
Unedited version, is that even a thing?
Yes, it is.
What is your favorite band and or song?
That would be Avenged Sevenfold, Shepherd of Fire.
And why is that?
Because it's dark and amazing, and I played with it with Call of Duty Zombies, and I loved it. There's nothing like killing zombies to avenge Sevenfold.
I couldn't say anything against that. All right, favorite author and or book?
Let's see. J.K. Rowling, I love me some Harry Potter.
That's totally understandable. And last but not least, TV show.
Ooh, I have quite a few, but I have to go with Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine. Good show. All right. Well, we will call it an interview there and move on to our next one. Thank you very much, Mack.
And welcome back. We are now going to delve into the mind of Fleric. Fleric, welcome.
Hello.
You've been following sumo with us for almost 2 years now. How does that feel?
It's felt pretty terrible, I will tell you.
Pretty terrible. Why is that?
Just my hatred towards you guys has just grown.
It is palpable. I can tell. It is
by
palpable.
each and every podcast, I question why I hang out with you guys.
You know what? I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't blame you one bit. But let's go back into the sumo. So you've been following it with us. You've been enjoying it. What would you say you enjoy most about sumo?
That's a very good question. I definitely like the strangeness of it. It's definitely a very strange sport because I think it's the only one that actually has like no weight classes. But mostly the culture that comes with it, like they're essentially in like big diapers and they throw some salt and then they kind of do some colorful singing and they kind of like do some stomping right before the matches. But then it's like just a really hardcore, like I think the biggest thing that kind of turned me on to sumo is when I realized how tough and how tough these rikishi are. Like they are battering injuries the whole entire time, and like they can just like slap people right like on the side of their head. It's no big deal because that's part of the rules, and it's just I think that's the thing I love the most is the strange culture and the fact that these guys are just really tough dudes.
And we've seen several matches be quite gruesome. We've seen guys get knocked out. We've seen guys blow out their knees. We've seen guys fly out of the ring like crazy. It's an insane sport, but that's why we love it so much.
Indeed.
Now, is there a rikishi of choice that you like to watch? Is there one that you just love and root for each time he hits the clay?
It has to be Arawashi.
Now, why is it Arawashi?
Because he's just so. I love the rikishi that are just a lot more fast and like they like to throw people a lot and they don't just kind of like I'm big, I'm strong, I'm just going to push you out. It's kind of more of like techniques of throwing and more kind of moving around to change weights and gain advantages. And Arawashi is just, I think his throws are beautiful when his knees are working. So he's my favorite. Harumafuji was up there as well, but unfortunately he's no longer around.
You had also been in Pap's podcast. You were a Kakuryu fan, so not so much love on this one.
Oh, what do you mean? Like I don't love Kakuryu still?
No. It's just
I need to fill the void of Harumafuji somehow.
You were singing the praises of Kakuryu in the place of Harumafuji, so it's interesting that you're not as big into Kakuryu.
He's I think most of my love for that guy was because I think everyone was just kind of thinking he was terrible, but like everything I was hearing, like he was doing practice. Like once again, the training reports that we keep on getting graced by Kintamiyama himself, is like he'd say just quietly, be like, "Oh yeah," and Kakaryu won every single match, like in every single training day. So he is definitely really good. And like I guess I just really disagreed how people were just thinking he was terrible. And he definitely brought it this year, like with double-digit wins and 2 U shows. So I think I more so just believe in him. But his style of sumo is just kind of, I guess it's all right, but I definitely like the fast-moving, kind of quicker style the better.
It is definitely more entertaining just to see how quickly these guys can zip across the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Well, other than sumo, we've hung out obviously a lot. What other hobbies do you have?
That's a very good question. I think I've alluded to a couple times. I love actually watching competitive video games or esports. My bread and butter growing up was just playing a lot of StarCraft. I was absolutely terrible, but like as soon as I found out that there were people who played this game professionally, that kind of blew my mind. That's something that's really, really cool. I've never been like the hugest sports fan growing up, mostly because I just didn't really play. Well, I did play a lot. I did play a lot of sports, but I never really got into the professional side because I was never really that good. I guess I should say that.
But I will say one sport that you are a particular fan of, and indeed guilty of playing almost in 2 countries now. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but Ultimate Frisbee has been your go-to sport for quite a while.
I am literally addicted to that game.
Now, you played a pickup game in Japan at one point, didn't you?
Yeah. So I actually have been lucky enough to go to Japan. My older brother, he decided to move there and teach English to the young, malleable minds of Japanese children, for better or for worse. But dang, are they
those poor children?
They're going to learn some English. But no, I was lucky to go there, and the one thing I love about Ultimate is how international it is, and like you can just kind of find a group of people playing, show up in a city, and just kind of play with them, get to know them. It's something I absolutely love.
So what was your favorite thing about Japan? Was it just the Ultimate Frisbee opportunity, or did you go see all the sites that Japan had to offer?
I would say no open container laws was actually pretty amazing.
All right, okay, I can get on board with that.
No, the coolest thing was see my brother, obviously, and then just kind of just being in a different culture. Like the biggest thing was like I did not speak Japanese at all. So a lot of my communication was actually just kind of gesturing at people and like kind of looking some stuff up in Google Translate. And it's I kind of surprised me about how much you can get across by just doing that kind of stuff.
So what was your favorite site? Did you go? You went around and saw a whole bunch of Japan. What was your favorite place to go visit?
There's this one.
Uh-oh.
All right, I got to tell it. So I guess one of my things I'm most proud of, like, how Japan's kind of famous for like different vending machines and stuff you can buy out of them. Mm-hmm. So one of the things there are a couple of things I want to buy from vending machines. One of them was to get vending machine beer because I think that's amazing. And the other thing was to actually try to find some used panties out of the vending machine as well.
Oh, man.
So we scoured all of this town in Japan, and one of the hobby shops / sex kind of porn stores as well. It was I went into the back corner just kind of seeing what they got there. It was actually really huge. But then all the way in the back there was this one little kind of like a capsule machine of where you can buy some stuff, and that's where I found some used panties. And so that actually made me giggle, and that made me really feel like I accomplished something during that trip.
Well, no one can deny you have eclectic taste, sir. Much like your taste in characters in our Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. Now, we have partaken in several campaigns with you, and we can all agree that your characters are the most entertaining and insane
That's probably
when it comes
true.
to playing with you. But which one has been your favorite?
Oh, that's a good question. There was one where my character was pretty much just a guy who tried to do really, really good backflips. I think his name was Willie.
Willie Thompson, I remember him.
Willie Thompson. There was a recent one I did too. I believe I think I was like a mage of some sort. I've had a lot, but I'll probably say there's one I also had like a pet raptor. It's hard to go too much into, but I guess the ones I had the most fun with were just hanging out and just kind of doing stupid stuff with my friends. Not a really specific character or campaign in general.
But you've also been very creative when you're D&Ding with us. Correct me if I'm wrong, there was one campaign in which you were a summoner of some type, and you created a specific golem out of, was it sewage?
I think right you are, Mack.
A poo golem, to be exact. Now, what led you to create this creature?
I don't exactly remember the details, but I do remember we were in sewer, surrounded by some excrement, and I also had, I think, a power called telekinesis. And for some reason, the first thing I thought was like, oh man, what am I going to do to battle these guys? But then I realized, oh, we have all this excrement right around here. If only there was some way to make a snowman out of it. And then I asked my Jake as our DM, like, whether or not I could use that power and actually make a poop golem, as I so called it, and be able to battle the enemies. And when I asked that, he said it was okay, and that made me really happy.
Definitely one of our more interesting sessions that we've played. Well, the poop golem reminds me of a movie you may or may not have seen called Dogma, which got me to thinking. We've seen quite a few movies together, both good and bad. Of the movies we've seen together, which has been your favorite?
Oh, that's... Yeah, the fact that you mentioned Dogma is pretty good. I guess that's kind of the most recent one right there. It's... I have a terrible time actually ranking movies that I see. But that one is one I really enjoyed.
It is quite hilarious, but I also think that we have an affinity for The Room. A little bit of Tommy Wiseau.
I actually don't remember like half of that.
You did consume a little bit of alcohol the night we were watching.
Yeah, that's the night where we start off going to a German bar and start off with a boot of some beer.
We drank the majority of that boot.
And then I tried to destroy all you guys in foosball. But then it turned out that you were actually a secret prodigy as a child, training in schooled us all. Well, and so that made me really sad.
I am happy to go against you again anytime with the beer.
There we go. We might actually have to do that. I
would be for that. But the beer would be on me. But what would it be? What is your beer of choice?
Ooh. So beer is something I definitely enjoy. My oldest brother both my brothers now, they are really into the craft beer scene and trying just a bunch of different beers, and they just kind of really got me into that by proxy. I would have to say a good pale ale with a nice and fresh with some just really like either Citra or Mosaic hops are just absolutely delicious. I'm not the hugest fan of New England IPAs. They're pretty good, but just a well-made pale ale is what I love.
Just know that The Last Punishment hurt me as well. When I made you sing the praises of Busch Light.
Apparently it didn't stop you, though.
No, it didn't. It was too great.
All right.
Well, you also like to journey up to, is it a brewery in Wisconsin for Darkness Day? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh, yeah. That's actually, it's an event up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, from a brewery called Surly. And they release a Russian Imperial Stout every single year called Darkness, which is absolutely delicious. It's what happens is they release it a day, but like the day before, everyone kind of camps together, like in the streets, and then like they all bring out their kind of little tables, and they put out a bunch of different beers that they just kind of brought from all along the world, and you can just they are some of the most drunk, the nicest, most generous drunk people that I've ever met, and you can just kind of walk around, just kind of sharing sips of beers, and just everyone's just really generous. Like they've given me some food, like just free food that night as well, and it's just a very, really fun time. It's also a time like my brother lives on the East Coast, and so I don't get to see him all that often. He always kind of makes it every single year, and so it's a really fun time just hanging out with friends and with my brother. And then the next day when we're hungover, we wait in line and just buy some beer while there's a bunch of metal music playing.
So it sounds like you're definitely a beer aficionado. You know your taste, and you're willing to travel for good beer.
It's a fun time.
That is excellent, and you've had many adventures, and hopefully there are many more to come. Thank you for this opportunity to delve into what makes you tick.
Hey, Jake, what's up?
Hey, Ryan. Hello, friend.
Hello, friend. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank each member of the GSB crew on their podcasting ability and rank them in your favorite to least favorite?
So, including myself.
Sure.
I am my favorite.
Okay.
Second would be Bubbles, because she is on most episodes barking in the background or running into the table. Third would be Panthro, my cat, because he jumps on the table and sometimes hits buttons and stuff like that.
And he's the fluffiest.
And fourth would be Flerick, because he picks up his trash when he leaves.
That's a very fair point. How did you meet everybody in the GSB crew?
Through college, pretty much. We were all in engineering together, and eventually, I guess, our group just kind of solidified as the group that we just hang out with all the time. And then, yeah, and that's been the case for most of a decade now.
Yeah, I think it was Physics 201 doing homework.
That class was something.
That class was BS, but we all passed it. We got our degrees. Yay, us.
That class actually got me through my last year at college because I tutored people who were taking it. And because that class was a bastard, there were a lot of people who needed tutoring for it.
Yeah. So this is going to be brought up on, I'm pretty sure, every single interview, but we played a lot of D&D when we were in college. You were the dungeon master for all of them, pretty much. And
All the ones that lasted more than one drunken evening.
yeah. So what are some of your favorite stories and experiences with D&D in college as the dungeon master?
I am glad you asked because this is a story that was going to be told no matter what. And it may actually be mentioned in other interviews as well. We're not necessarily recording all these at the same time. But there was one particular campaign that we were running where we all had specific superpowers. And I can't remember exactly how it came about, but Fleric had the power of telekinesis. And while we were battling in the sewers, Fleric also had a moment of creative genius and decided to use his telekinesis to form the sewage into like a poop golem. And we used it to fight off our many enemies.
I believe it ended up aflame at one point.
I was going to say, I think it lit on fire at one point.
Thank you for being here to correct me.
But no, yeah, you got
moments
right.
like that are what made it so much fun. Where, like, as the DM, I either like set up a situation, or as the players, you guys were finding creative solutions where just the dumbest possible things possible just always ended up happening.
Yeah, and you were always very lax with the rules. We were never super worried about how encumbered we were and how fast we could move.
It was the rule of cool.
Rule of cool, exactly.
If it's cool enough, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Let's just do a quick lightning round. I don't care about your favorites. Tell me your least. Tell me your least favorite video game.
Oh, I guess if we're looking at anything recent, I would have to go with Dynasty Warriors 9. Because
is it much different than 1 through 8?
Yes. And all those were good. No, I played a lot of that series, but the new one just blows. I just couldn't. I don't know. I suppose I'm mostly angry because of recency bias and because it was expensive.
How about your least favorite movie?
I've sat through some cruddy ones, but I don't know.
Probably Speed Racer.
I
then?
wasn't. You shut up. You shut right up. I guess my least favorite movie to mention around you is Speed Racer because it's a goddamn masterpiece and you hate it. No, I guess I don't know. I'm pretty good about turning off movies that I don't like. Like Interview with the Vampire. How about that one?
Oh yeah.
I tried that one like a week or two ago, and it's just so bad. I made it like 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's too much of Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise just being pretty.
I mean, they are pretty, but
they're very pretty. How about your least favorite TV show?
I don't know if this is my least favorite ever, but I know that I certainly hate when people quote The Office because I've just never bothered to watch it all the way through, and it seems like every other person on the planet has, and it's quoted constantly, and I know like 3 or 4 of the jokes.
No, I stopped watching it after Michael Scott left.
Aren't there like a billion seasons of it too?
8, I think.
Oh, okay, that's not so bad.
Yeah, first 3 seasons are prime stuff when Jim and Pam are courting each other. Best stuff on TV.
Yeah, like that. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You don't know about Jim and Pam and their wonderful
don't care.
courting? All right. Screw you.
I'd rather watch BoJack Horseman and be depressed.
All right. What is your least favorite book? A book you started, couldn't get into it, had to put it down.
Probably
something you had to read in high school for
The
English.
Fellowship of the Ring.
Really?
Yeah, and part of it was because of the age that I watched or read it, which was it was before middle school. So I don't know, maybe like 5th grade or so. So I was like, 10, 11, 12, something like that. And the beginning of The Fellowship, if you only remember this one with nostalgia, is really boring.
Yeah, it is.
I couldn't make it. I don't think I even got to Rivendell. I'm not sure I even got to Aragorn. I don't know, but either way, it was the wrong book for that time in my life and that attention level.
Yeah, J.R.R. J.R.R. Tolkien
There you go.
certainly loves his words and descriptors.
Yeah, and I mean, also because it was right around when the movies came out, I just went, this was not worth it. I'm going to go watch the movie.
And one more, least favorite band or musician
I don't
or
know.
type of music.
I don't have a particular
or
vendetta.
sound.
Does your voice count?
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, that was a good assist. I don't know. I suppose I don't have a particular vendetta, but I suppose if I could pick if I could bend the rules of my answer, I would say Top 40 Radio, where they play the same frickin' song every hour on the hour. You know, whatever song it is, that particular set of 2 weeks that is played 35 times a day. That's what really gets me. I don't mind most stuff, but when it's on repeat, or country music just sucks.
I like how you pushed up your glasses as you said that.
They were sliding down my nose because of the pretentiousness. What about it?
Oh, nothing. It was good. I was doing the same thing.
You're not even talking, but you had to do it.
What about drowning pools, let the bodies hit the floor?
Ooh, you're right. I do have a vendetta against a specific song or band. Yeah, that one. That one. I'd like that to be my answer, please.
All right,
Final
that works.
answer.
All right, so what does a typical day in the life of Jake look like?
Usually it starts with hitting snooze too many times, going to work and sitting at a desk in a posture that's bad for my back long term.
Oh, that's sad for you.
Either way. I come home from work, and 50% of the time I have the motivation to actually do my proper working out. Going on a run with bubbles, boxing in the basement, stuff like that. And then usually either tossing in a frozen pizza or doing something extremely elaborate for dinner. There's really not very many in-betweens for me. And then watching TV with my wife, whether it's movies or catching up on shows or something like that. That's probably a normal day.
Yeah, that sounds not too unlike my day, except my wife would never allow the frozen pizza for supper.
Yeah, and that's why I have the better wife.
Do you want to get into this right now?
Hey, we're only halfway through this interview by time, so you know what? We can just fight the rest of it.
I'm always down for that, but I think the better radio would be Gabby versus Katie on who's the better wife. So we'll save that for another episode.
When only one of those wives allows frozen pizza.
I eat damn good food on a regular basis.
I know. I have the motivation and time, and I really enjoy cooking elaborate things like, making a stir fry with a bunch of veggies, or like making fajitas with, whatever interesting ingredients we have in the house. But just as often, I don't care. And I just want to sit down and get to my TV or video games sooner.
That's the thing that I find is if I sit down after work, it's going to be a rough go getting me up to do anything fancy.
Exactly. I have to change into workout clothes before sitting down, or I have to go to the kitchen before sitting down. That's just how it works.
Yeah. Little known fact about Jake, because he hasn't said it on the show.
So widely known, except for people who don't know it yet.
Yeah, exactly. Jake is an Eagle Scout. What are some of your favorite memories of the Boy Scouts and becoming an Eagle Scout?
I think it's kind of funny that most of the memories I have that I look back on fondly are when we were doing what we were not supposed to be doing. So whether that's like testing out how good we actually are at starting fires with stuff you don't normally start fires with, that's a lot of fun. Don't do that, kids.
What were some of the methods you used to start fires?
Do we need to put a warning on this if it's I don't know. I don't have
the warning.
Yeah. Not like stuff out of the anarchist cookbook or stuff like that, but if you have a 9-volt battery and steel wool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one works way better than I ever thought it would. Glasses.
Like a magnifying glass?
Or glasses. I think we got that to work once.
Oh.
Like face eyeball glasses. I don't know. Stuff like that. We got into that a lot. And then, but yeah, the other stuff that I remember fondly, I did my Eagle project was a local church needed a fire ring. So we put in a fire ring and, had a campfire there and just sat around telling stories and terrible, corny skits that always happens around Boy Scout campfires. There are a lot of those that over the years, and that was another thing that was a lot of fun, was just corny, terrible skits.
Yeah. My favorite memory of you as an Eagle Scout is that picture your parents have of you on the refrigerator.
Oh, back when I had my
shoulder-length hair.
my Rock Band high school hair.
Oh, God, it's glorious.
Yeah.
We should.
I also weighed about 30 pounds less then.
Can we tweet out a picture of that?
No.
Please?
You'll have to drive to my house to get it. My parents' house.
Crap, and they're moving, so I don't know where they're going to live soon.
Exactly.
Also, I'm not very familiar with where they're from, so I'd get lost
You wouldn't
anyways.
know where they were if they weren't moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, besides sumo wrestling, you're in love with other combat sports, mainly MMA. Describe your obsession and some of the in-depth bookkeeping things you have done with MMA.
That's an awfully pointed question, and I know exactly what you're getting at. I actually kind of gave up on that project recently. It was too hard to maintain. But anyways, MMA, probably my favorite sport as far as ones that I don't do podcasts about. But it really appeals to me.
What sports do you have podcasts about you're not telling us?
Whatever. But yeah, I think part of it is just my being a guy and like a video gamer specifically. Just violence in general is pretty cool. So MMA gets a good amount of that, but it's also extremely broad and extremely. You need to know at least a little bit of a dozen different things in order to be good at it. And I think that's one of the things that appeals to me because I'm a person that likes to know a little bit of everything. So it's a sport where there's a jillion different things that you can do, and you have to be ready for any of them from your opponent. And it's just on TV frequently enough that I can always keep up to date. But the specific to your question there, you were asking about the spreadsheet that I put together once. I went back and cataloged the results of every single fight in the UFC. Let's see. I think through mid 2017 or so. So all the way back to the very first UFC event in 1993. So I had a spreadsheet
Literally
that had
thousands and thousands of matches.
About 4,500 fights.
Jeez.
So the main reason I did that was, one, it was fun because it was a trip through history, which anybody who listens to the podcast knows that's kind of what I would do for fun anyways. And spreadsheets, which I also kind of do for fun anyways. But yeah, it was a fun trip through history, and it also allowed me to look through betting odds and see how accurate betting odds really are and how those work, because it's just one piece of analyzable data. And it was a lot of fun to go through and do that, but it's too much work to do that every week for whatever new fights there were.
And they're fighting so much more often than they used to.
Yeah. I'd say 4 weeks out of 5 there's an event, and that's 15 more fights that I got to log.
Yeah. All right, and real quick, as this is a sumo wrestling podcast, who was your favorite Rikishi when you started watching?
That would be Ishiura, for sure. There are certain guys that, as a podcast, we're pretty solid bandwagoners. Like right now, Tochinoshin's kind of the hot ticket. Mm-hmm. But when I first started, especially, was right around when Ishiura made his Makuuchi debut. And that was really something, because he went 10-5 that first one that we watched. It was spectacular seeing a little guy just outspeeding and out-techniquing all these other guys.
And who would be your favorite Rikishi now?
Right now, like I said, bandwagoners. Tochinoshin's probably near the top of that list. Also, Mitake Yumi. He's another guy.
You've been on the Mitake Yumi train for a little while.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much on the podcast, but I know you've been a fan for a while.
Right. He's kind of been in my top 3 to 5 range or so, at all times, just because he's a guy that debuted right around when we started as well. And it was great to see him rocket to the top before he even had the full Chonmage haircut.
All right, and that will wrap up this interview. Thank you for your time, Jake. It was a very pleasurable experience for both of us, I'm sure.
I'm sure you're sure.
Yes.
Hello and welcome. This is Fleric, and I'm going to be interviewing Orion. So I'm going to throw some questions at you, and then you're going to have to answer them.
And then I'm going to catch them and throw them back at you.
I don't think
that's a surprise reverse interview.
I don't think that's how it works.
Damn it.
I don't think... Can we do an interview where we only ask questions the whole entire time?
I don't know. Can we?
I don't think that's ever been done.
I win. I asked the last question. So, Fleric, tell me more.
Damn. Curses. All right, this interview has been done. This is done. Okay. So my first question for you is sumo. I just kind of wondering, what exactly keeps you coming back to sumo? What do you enjoy about it so much?
Honestly, if it wasn't for watching it with my friends, I probably wouldn't watch it. And this podcast obviously keeps me back. I'm not saying that I don't absolutely love it, but it's off the beaten path enough that if I wasn't constantly interacting with my friends, I wouldn't go out to seek it. But I've found that I love watching any competition. Football, basketball, hockey. I was honestly watching cornhole championships on ESPN this past weekend, and any competition, as long as I can start to figure out the rules and stuff, I can get into it and cheer for somebody. And so sumo just obviously falls right in line with that. But I absolutely love the structure of it. I love that it's 6 bashos a year. It's 15 days. The person with the best record wins, and there's a tournament to figure out an ultimate winner if they are tied with the best record. I love the structure of it. I think that's most of it. And I mean, I obviously love just the two guys going at it. Just whoever can manhandle the other one the best. In most cases, sometimes whoever can jump to the side the best. And then even there's that strategy involved. And just I just love talking about it. I love doing this podcast, being able to talk with my friends about it. That's probably the biggest thing that keeps me coming back is, honestly, I just love doing that.
There you go. He's jaded about sumo, but
I am not jaded. It made it seem like I don't like sumo that much and I only watch it with my friends. That is not the case. I love it.
Despite what I just said. No. I get where you're kind of saying. I was just trying to throw a little bit shade at you. I think I entirely agree. Like, any kind of just people like trying their hardest in the competition is just so fascinating.
Exactly. I could watch any competition as long as I sort of understand the rules.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And luckily at this point, I mostly know the rules of sumo.
So, okay, that's probably better than me. But I digress. So the first question after that I have is kind of how you got to meet all of us. But I think of all the people here, I think we know each other the longest.
We have known each other the longest. I met Fleric when I was a sophomore in high school. Fleric was a junior. He is the elder statesman of the group. He came over from his small hometown and joined the big town that I lived in. And we were in band together. And I think it was our combined love of the wonderful trumpet.
The glorious trumpet, indeed.
Yes, that really cemented our friendship. For we both played trumpet in the marching band, and marching band sucked. So we were able to bond over how awesome the trumpet is, while simultaneously how awful marching band is.
Exactly. That's, if anything brings you together more, is just how awful high school marching band is.
Exactly. And
we kind of branched out from there, and we started hanging out like outside of that, and like playing playing a lot of video games together. Right?
A lot of it was you, me, and our other friend AJ, and I can't remember who. It was either AJ or I that coined the nickname Fleric, which I think you're called that more than your real name at this point by everybody. So I'm pretty proud of that one. If it was me, could have easily been AJ.
Indeed. But I know, knowing you would definitely take credit for that.
It was 100% me.
Exactly. To give some context on that, my first name's Eric, my last name's Flair, and so a combination of Fleric is how that's born.
Beautifully works out like that. But yeah, you mentioned playing video games. I think some of my favorite memories are pulling all-nighters, playing Rock Band.
We played
over at your place.
Rock Band.
Rock Band and DDR were two very big ones. Fleric has a very good DDR setup. He has a plywood board with 2 different DDR pads attached to them, and it's the best setup you can have at home to play DDR.
We did not mess around at all. Like, no. We actually took
it very seriously.
We took the cheap little pads, and like we as you said, we kind of taped them up to kind of make it so like you can actually use them and not break down. And dang, did we... Well, I definitely... It was my setup, so I was definitely the better dancer of the two.
Oh, yeah.
By
far.
When I had arrows that told me exactly what to do. But dang, did we both play a lot of that with Rock Band.
So spend a lot of nights over in Fleric's basement, and I actually still have a comforter, the most comfy comforter that I've ever used. I stole from Fleric's basement, and still use it to this day. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, it's I know exactly that comforter because we have like 3 of them.
Goose feathers or something. It's amazing.
It's like the best thing ever.
It is.
So moving on from that, we actually we continued, like, we liked each other so much for some reason that we actually went on to roommate together in college.
Yeah, luckily for me, Fleric is a lazy SOB, so he took a year off before he started college, and I started college right away. So we started at the same time, and we were roommates for 4.5 years all through college, and I took a semester off for work, so it wasn't a full 4 years, but 4.5 years we roomed together at college, and I mean, we've been friends and obviously keeping in touch ever since.
Yeah, exactly. So we were talking about some video games, and so what is your favorite video game franchise?
Legend of Zelda, easy. Multiplayer games can go suck it. Single player games is where it's at, and I enjoy the puzzles of that series and just the overall lore of it. Even though Nintendo's lying about the lore for the most part, I still enjoy it very much. They're trying now, but yeah, I just love everything about Legend of Zelda. It's by far and away my favorite series.
Which game is your favorite?
That's tough. I would go to Ocarina of Time because that's the one I've played the most. I've beaten that probably 6 or 7 different times. Breath of the Wild, though, is amazing. I played that for at least 130, 140 hours. Gotten everything except for the Korok seeds because that's bullshit. God, not Skyward Sword. I can tell you that much.
Okay.
Motion controls are bullshit.
So we know which ones are not. That's kind of fun. I definitely personally enjoyed Link to the Past a lot, but I think that was a little bit before your time.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time was really not the first video game I remember playing. That's kind of like the original Super Mario Kart and like Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy Kong's Quest.
That's a fun game.
Is a very personal favorite of mine. But Ocarina of Time was like the first Legend of Zelda game I played, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah. Another thing, I think one thing I picked up from you after living together with you for such a long time was actually appreciation for sports. And so,
very much so.
I think one question I have for you is, why do you always back sports teams that are terrible?
I think it's innate in most people to cheer for the underdog. Mm-hmm. But mostly it's just poor childhood decisions. My number one team is the Minnesota Vikings. They've broken my heart many times in my life, and it's my father's fault because he supported the Minnesota Vikings his whole life, and they've broken his heart far more times than they've broken mine. He stuck with them. I'm going to stick with them. I'm a big Kirk Cousins believer. This year's the year, damn it.
Just like last year.
So close. But I'm also an Iowa State Cyclone fan, and that was the biggest poor decision I made in my life.
I will say, when we were going to college, we did have a shrine to Fred Hoiberg, and like the basketball team was doing pretty good.
He's
at that time.
the most beautiful man that has ever graced the state of Iowa, at the very least.
So handsome.
He's so handsome. But that was based solely on my favorite color is red. And the Cyclones are red and yellow, and the other team in our state is the Iowa Hawkeyes. They are black and yellow. So clearly I chose against my entire family, who are all Hawkeye fans, and went with the Cyclones solely because they had red in their color. I supported them ever since. We went to college at Iowa State together. They've pulled off some amazing wins in the time that I was there. They beat Oklahoma State, the number 2 team in the country at the time. I was at that game, stormed the field, almost lost my wallet and keys as I dropped them on the field, somehow miraculously found them. I've had some great memories at Iowa State games. I've had some really bad memories at Iowa State games, but the ones that stand out are the good ones.
I like that you brought up your dad, because I always was kind of wondering about you as I got to know you. It's like, why do you have such strong opinions about sports in Nebraska?
Because Nebraska sucks.
But then
is that like even a question?
But then I met your dad, and then it all made sense. He's just kind of a more like the future version of Ryan.
Oh yeah, my dad has a lot of very strongly held opinions, and if anything wrongs him in the slightest way possible, he is done with them forever.
All right, so my next question, something we did with your dad, we did together, frisbee-based golf. Is it fun?
Disc golf. Yes, it is fun. It's also played during the summertime, and it's way too hot for that most of the time.
Yeah, we are also terrible at coordinating that.
Yeah, it is really fun. Flairk and I played that a lot together when we were in college, when it was a lot easier because we had free time. There were a couple courses up at Iowa State we were able to play, and we actually had a pretty good competition going there. We split wins for the most part. I think we were fairly even at disc golf. My dad still plays like every week, twice on the weekends usually, and he's 61 years old. He's the one who got me into it. I don't remember if I got you into it or if you had found it on your own. But
I had some friends who kind of introduced me to it. Like, actually, I played all the way back in high school. That's when I first tried it.
Yeah, but that is that's a really fun game to play. I've enjoyed playing that a lot. Played it once in Nebraska and lost my favorite disc there, so another check mark against Nebraska.
What jerks?
Exactly. How dare they?
Yeah. Another question I have is I heard you have an opinion about cement versus concrete.
Yes, as a construction engineer, I know what concrete is, and everybody else doesn't. Because
1 second. So construction engineer, is that like a half an engineering degree?
No, that is like a full engineering degree. My friends like to laugh about that because most of them were an aerospace engineer. And I think I made a comment once that construction engineering is like half business, half engineering. And so now I get deemed half engineer. But how many of my friends have passed the fundamentals exam for engineering and are an engineer in training and are studying up to take the professional engineer's exam in the next year? So when I am Ryan P.E., I'm not getting my master's. I don't need my master's because I'm going to get paid a lot for my professional engineering license.
Whatever you want to say to make yourself feel better.
And that's what
great.
I will say, is that I will be padding my bank account with my professional engineer's license.
All right. Moving on again. So you have a wife.
I do have a wife.
So have you figured out why she's still with you?
I have not.
Do you know that her backup plan is to actually marry me? And
Abscond away with you in Japan, yes. I am very well aware. She reminds me of that almost on a daily basis. But as for why she's still with me, I say I don't know because there's just so many reasons. It could be the devilishly good looks, the amazing sense of humor, the comfort that I bring to her in her life. I am a rock for her. I am always steady and can provide for her whenever she needs. There's just so many reasons that she would want to stay with me. It's just hard to pin down which it is.
All right, delusional. Sounds good. I was going to say, did she know that you sold your first 2 kids to me in high school for a bag of chips and a BK triple stack?
Were those the terms?
I'm pretty sure it was something along those lines.
Okay, I did lose a lot of weight in high school, so I was probably trying to fatten back up again. And
BK triple stack
needed that BK triple stack. It is true. I did sell my firstborn children to Flerick, who he has since sold both of those off to other people for other favors. She didn't know it immediately. She probably knew fairly quickly afterwards, but you do not have that in writing, so good luck.
Yeah, it's. I think if you're a man of your word, you would honor that contract.
I think you know me well enough by now to know that I am not.
Fair enough. All right, we got a few lightning round questions to end it off.
Right.
Your favorite rikishi?
Hokuto Fuji.
All right. Your favorite book or book series?
The A Song of Ice and Fire. Hopefully it is actually finished someday.
All right. Favorite YouTube channel?
Good Mythical Morning.
All right. So what thoughts on playing D&D with me?
Frustrating. When I've DM'd one campaign, and in that campaign alone, you shot an innocent woman who we saved from burglars in the leg. And so we had a trial for you, which I believe you were sent to jail, and we had to break you out of jail. And then we also ran across a guy on the road who was just kind of mean to you guys. And so your character and Jake's character kind of roughed him up a little bit, did not make friends with this guy at all. And we happened to run across him in the Elven home city. And you decided that you were going to take revenge on him. And I'll try to keep this as PG as possible. Flerick had the ability to transform to look like the guy and proceeded to fornicate with farm animals while getting...
That sounds accurate.
While getting a crowd around to completely ruin this man's reputation for like a snide comment made on the road one time.
It sounds like he had it coming. But anyways, that's all the time we have right now. Thanks for answering the questions. Right?
I will say for my final comment that I am better than you at Mario Kart.
I'm sorry, that's all that... I don't know if that's ever been proven. And for some reason, you like lightweight characters when all of the world records are in the heavyweight characters.
Koopa Troopa for the win forever.
Yeah. That's all the time we have here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Grand Sumo Breakdown.
Until next time.
Throw your salt high.
And keep moving forward.